They said I wasn't family anymore, just because I didn't have money. 4 words shattered the holiday cheer. "You're not invited, Sofia." And just like that, my entire family cut me off like I was a stranger, all because I couldn't fake their perfect little world anymore. But what they didn't know is that I had a secret that would change everything. If this shocked you already, just wait till you see what happens next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe the underdog always wins. Last Christmas, I stood outside the gate of my childhood home while the lights twinkled behind frosted windows and my cousins laughed inside with wine glasses, clinking. My heart wasn't just broken, it was crushed. I had shown up despite the group text disinviting me. No explanation, no emotion, just, "This year's gathering is only for close family. Hope you understand." I understood all right. After Dad died, and the inheritance got handled by my uncle, I suddenly wasn't good enough for their glamorous lifestyle. No luxury car, no designer coat, just me, Sofia, struggling to keep the apartment Dad left me from going into. Foreclosure. But I didn't come to beg. I came with a plan. You see, what none of them knew was that the old worthless land Dad bought years ago, the one they mocked him for, it had just become the approved site for the biggest solar energy plant in the state. And I was now sitting on a multi-million-dollar deal. But I didn't tell a soul. Not yet. I watched through the frosty window as my cousin Chloe, perfect Chloe, made a dramatic toast in her glittering red dress. She raised her glass and said, "To family, the ones who actually belong." Laughter. Eyes turned toward the empty chair at the end of the table, my chair. I clenched my fists, not out of anger, but clarity. They thought I was gone for good, that I had nothing. But tonight, I wasn't here for revenge. I was here to take back what was mine. Quietly, cleanly, and with a smile. Suddenly, I got a text. Unknown number. "You don't know me, but we need to talk about the land your father owned. Urgent. I'm outside." I stepped away from the window, adrenaline rising. Who could this be? Was someone trying to steal the deal from under me? Was this connected to the family? I turned around and froze. Standing there, half in the shadows, was a man in a navy coat. Familiar eyes. A face I hadn't seen since my father's funeral. "Uncle Daniel?" I whispered. He smiled, but it wasn't warm, and what he said next made my blood run cold. "That land? You were never meant to have it, but you already know that, don't you?" My breath caught. I hadn't seen Uncle Daniel in over 2 years, not since he conveniently lost the original copy of Dad's will. His presence here wasn't a coincidence. He knew. Somehow, he knew the land wasn't worthless anymore. I kept my face calm, even though my heart was hammering in my chest. "What are you doing here?" I asked slowly, watching his eyes for a flicker of guilt. He smiled like a politician. "Just checking in on family. You didn't get invited to the party either, huh?" He chuckled, like this was some inside joke. Like I hadn't spent the last year scraping by while he and the rest of the family drank champagne in Dad's house. I didn't answer. I just turned and started walking away. But his next words stopped me cold. "You really think that deal is going to go through?" he said, voice low. "You think these companies will sign anything once they find out what your father was hiding on that land?" I turned sharply. "What the hell are you talking about?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Let's just say your dad wasn't as honest as he seemed, and if the truth comes out, not only will the deal fall through, you might lose everything. Again." I stared at him, trying to read between the lines. Was he bluffing? Or had he actually found something buried, literally or legally, that could kill the deal? You're lying, I said, but my voice wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. Am I? He smirked. Why don't you ask the city why they suddenly delayed the zoning approval? Or better yet, check your father's old storage unit, if it hasn't been raided already. Panic crept up my spine like ice water. I hadn't been to that storage unit in months, not since I packed up the last of Dad's things. Could he be right? Could there be something hidden in there that could ruin everything? I walked away without another word, but inside, my mind was spinning. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed again. A new message. This time, from someone I hadn't spoken to in over a decade. I know the truth about your father's land, and why they all turned on you. Meet me, tonight. No name, no address, just a pin drop. It was deep in the industrial district, completely out of place for a holiday night. I sat there staring at the screen, torn between fear and fury. What if this wasn't just about money? What if my father had left behind something far more dangerous than I ever imagined? The night air was cold and biting as I pulled up to the deserted warehouse in the industrial district. Shadows danced beneath flickering streetlights, and every step toward that building felt heavier, like I was walking into a trap. But I couldn't turn back, not now. Inside, the place was dim, dusty, with crates stacked high and silence that screamed. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, her eyes sharp, her voice steady. Sofia. It was Mia, my childhood friend, the one who disappeared when the family turned on me. She looked different, tougher, like she'd been through hell and back. I knew you'd come, she said, handing me a folder thick with documents. Your uncle isn't bluffing. There's more at stake here than you think. Your father was investigating corruption, high-level deals that could bring down half the city council. The land was just a cover. My heart pounded. Why didn't you tell me before? Because I was scared, she admitted, and because I had to make sure you were ready. As I flipped through the papers, everything clicked. Bribes, secret meetings, even fake permits. My family was tangled in it all, and Dad was trying to expose them before he died. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind us. We spun around. Uncle Daniel stood there, flanked by two men. Nice to see you, Sofia, he said coldly. I was beginning to think you were going to run. Mia stepped in front of me. You're not taking her anywhere. Daniel laughed, a sound full of menace. This isn't over. You think you can play hero? You're outnumbered. My mind raced. What was his next move? And who could I really trust when the people I once called family had already turned their backs on me? The warehouse door slammed shut. I realized tonight was no longer about a party. It was a battle. What do you think Sofia should do next? Would you stand up to Uncle Daniel or run? Comment below. The warehouse plunged into darkness as the men closed in. My heart thundered, but I refused to show fear. You're making a mistake, Daniel, I said, voice steady despite the chaos inside me. This isn't just about money or land anymore. It's about the truth, he sneered. Truth? Your father's truth was a lie, and I'm here to make sure it stays buried. Suddenly, the faint hum of a phone ringtone cut through the tension. Mia's eyes flicked to her pocket. She had called for backup. Relief washed over me for a moment, but Daniel's smirk told me he was prepared. Backup? He laughed. I've got friends too. He nodded, and two more men appeared at the entrance. Trapped, outnumbered. But I noticed something. One of the crates nearby had a loose panel. Mia, cover me, I whispered, sprinting toward it. With a grunt, I slipped. Inside the crate, heart pounding in the cramped darkness. I could hear muffled voices, footsteps, Daniel's confident tone echoing. But then silence. The air felt thick with waiting. Minutes dragged by, each one a lifetime. Then, a sudden crash. Lights flicked on. Police stormed the warehouse, led by an officer I recognized from earlier investigations. Mia had been right. She had help. Daniel's face turned pale as officers cuffed him and his men. Outside, as the cold air hit me, I realized the night had just flipped. My family's secrets were exposed. The corruption was unraveling. And the land. It wasn't just worth millions. It was the key to justice. But the real question was, what would they do now that the truth was out? Was this victory or just the beginning of a war? What would you do if you were in Sofia's place? Expose everything or protect what's left of your family? Let me know in the comments. Days later, the headlines exploded. Family feud turns into corruption scandal. My name was everywhere, not as the poor cousin anymore, but as the woman who brought the whole system crashing down. My phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, allies, even old friends reaching out. At the heart of it all was the land. The solar project was back on, but now with full transparency. Investors who once ignored me were suddenly interested. And Chloe? She called, voice trembling, begging to meet. I told her one thing. I'm done being your family's forgotten secret. But the biggest surprise was waiting in my inbox. An email from the city mayor, offering me a seat on a new council to oversee clean energy projects. A chance to fight corruption from the inside. I hesitated. The same city that had nearly crushed me was now handing me power. Could I really trust them? Could I trust myself? As I stared out at the city skyline, lights flickering like distant promises, I realized this was my moment. Not just to take back what was mine, but to rewrite the rules. Because sometimes, the biggest victory isn't about revenge. It's about rising higher than anyone expected. And as for my family, tonight, I'll walk into the party they banned me from, not as an outcast, but as the woman who owned the night. What would you do if you were Sofia? Accept the mayor's offer or blaze your own trail? Drop your thoughts below. The story isn't over yet, but this chapter, it's mine. Thank you for reading.